Good evening. I call to order the meeting of this Triton School Building Committee for July 8th, 2026. I'm going to hand it over to Brian briefly. Emphasis on the briefly.
Thank you for the reminder, Mr. Chairman. So just two points of order. This is very close. One is we have a new member from the town of Rowley sitting across the table. Jordan Helter is replaced Christine Nealand. A lot has changed since we last met in 2 months. She had to step away because of other involvement in town. And I don't know if it was a badgering or convincing or full-on willingness, but Jordan sits on the finance subcommittee or the finance committee in town and was willing to be joining the committee. So the school committee appointed him on Monday night. And so Joe has the information to share with the MSBA to just update the list so that they have a fresh and current building committee. We don't have Patrick here tonight, student. He'll be returning. We will be having a new student because River Wynn graduated. So once we see students again, September 1st when they show up, we'll have another student to add to the committee. So tonight we're going to do this as quickly as possible, right? The reality is we had a meeting scheduled for, I believe it was June 25th, and that was canceled because we didn't have a quorum. And so there's been a lot of work that Doran Whittier has been doing and pushing us to keep moving so that we can look at that November 27 vote date that we are still targeting, and we'll confirm that tonight. But just to say, there's a lot that's been done, and so this is going to be trying to condense those two meetings into one, give you all the updates you need, and also make sure that you are clear on what the next steps are, because we even have some information sessions that we're adding on July 22nd before our next meeting, as well as a meeting on August 12th. I don't know where it makes sense for me to go over that piece. Just do it now? You have a slide?
I have a slide later on, but we could do it now if you'd like. It could go on either way.
So I guess, it probably makes sense to just share that up front. So as we've gone through the visioning and discussions, one of the discussions was around the administrative structure of what a 6 through 12 building looks like and a 7 through 12 building looks like. You know we have to keep those both on the table through at least that February submission. That, when we talk about what the physical building looks like, that's the school building committee. What the administrative and organizational structure is, that's a school committee discussion, right? That's a policy, high level, working through me and the administrative team to figure out what that structure is. So we had a meeting on Monday night to share that information, as I had shared in the email with you, to share where we are at in basic summary form, 2 distinct schools, if it's a 6 through 8 middle school and a 9 through 12 high school, so for that 6 to 12 model, currently seeing that as 2 distinct schools as we have them, adding 6th grade, lots of nuance with what that would look like and whether the 6 through 12 option will remain on the table financially. And then a 7 through 12 option, which we've largely landed with. It will be a single school, single principal, single administrative structure. Students come up to this campus in the 7th grade, and they are part of one organization, if you will, for the 7 through 12. Lots of iterations, lots of discussion to have, but the session on the 22nd of July 22nd at 5:30, and then August 11th at 7 p.m. Are going to be really a school committee information session, because that's their part of the decision. And then they'll meet on August 19th, confirm the direction that they want to see. That then becomes part of the ed plan, which is then our Bible for the remainder of this project to say, here's the building that fits that vision. So just to share with you that that's kind of a building committee, but it's kind of not. It's a little different in our process because we're making some pretty large structural changes to how the school functions that kind of ventured into school committee domain. So just to share that update, it was a good discussion, had a couple-hour discussion, and I think we're largely on the same page around that high-level concept, and certainly interested to hear what the community feels like or how the community feels around what those two options are. We'll provide a quick update, give a little more detail. Going to send a video out tomorrow or Friday just to get those dates on the calendar so that people are aware, and those will be here in this building. Sorry to take it out of order. I'm sure there was a great slide for that, but
No, I
kick it
think,
to Joe.
I think I no longer need to go through the agenda in too much detail. A lot of those topics were just kind of touched upon. We'll get into a lot of these tonight. In the sake of time, I won't read this all off. Couple items that weren't mentioned before. We're going to get some of the information that we were supposed to get at the last meeting in terms of the designer work plan will be coming tonight from Michelle. Busy night for Michelle here. We have updates on community outreach, multiple updates to share there. We're going to confirm the building committee meeting schedule moving forward and also introducing the initial kind of conceptual building options in narrative form. So jumping in to the consent agenda, we are going to request a vote to approve the May 28th, 2026 SBC minutes.
Can I get a motion?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Sorry, I didn't know exactly what you said, so.
Thank you.
Who seconded? Did Mike do both?
No, I made the motion.
Oh, you made the
He
motion,
seconded it.
Mike seconded. Okay, cool. Just making sure we get that for the minutes.
I made my adjustment afterwards, I registered what he said.
We're all set.
Excellent. All right. At this point, I will turn it over to Michelle.
Ready?
My too many headers that I make here.
Great. Go ahead and click that button again. Thank you. All right, so this slide is actually from last month's plan, so you could have seen that last month we are just about to turn the corner. We are now halfway to our August 10th reporting for both the facility site assessments as well as the work that Mike has been doing for the educational program. So the first part I'm going to do is update you on, I feel like I'm echoing, sorry, update you on all of the work that we've been doing on the architectural side. So, well, sorry, I don't have a clicker. Do you want me to? I don't have long arms either. So this is, this is the list of all of the consultants that we have that have come out to visit the building. We are currently working on the architectural portion of it. We have one more meeting to come through. All of our other consultants, with the exception of the wetlands and the site surveys and traffic, have already been out to the site. We have received many of the draft reports. John confirmed for me earlier, about an hour ago, that the wetland flagging has already started as well. So site survey is out there doing some of their work. And the traffic report will need to wait until the students come back in September. So we're going to be holding off on that report until September so that we can actually have students on campus and measure the traffic as it's coming through. Did you have a question? Oh, okay. Next. So what do we actually do when we're out here on the site? So the reports that you'll see is not all that unfamiliar to the ones that Habib had done for you. We measure the building for health, safety, and welfare. We're looking for code compliance. We're looking for maintenance issues across the building, energy efficiency, hazardous materials that are in disrepair. So let's be careful about this one. Hazardous building materials that are in good condition are not a problem. It's when they're broken down that they become a problem. So don't be afraid by that word. But when it comes to abatement for the building, we need to assess all of those pieces and make sure that we can account for them, because it will cost money to put them in a dumpster. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes, we unfortunately have too much experience recently
Okay.
dealing with the abatement and issues.
Yes,
So,
okay.
Yes.
And then we also assess the building for the functional use of the building spaces. And this is actually how you're using the spaces within the building. And this goes back to the way that we'll be looking at the educational program and the spaces that you have. How are you using classroom spaces? How are you using library spaces, special education spaces? All of the spaces that are within the building, are they large enough to serve the needs of the function that they have? So you'll see all of those pieces in our report. Go ahead, next slide, please. Then we take that report and we put it into a spreadsheet. And again, not all that unlike what you had seen in the Habib report. We actually take those subjects that I just mentioned, the 6. You'll see where each item falls into. This is actually the plumbing report that you have that you'll see in a moment. And we quantify the amounts of materials that we have found that need to be repaired or replaced, and then we'll be able to send it off to our cost estimator so that they can come back to us with a cost estimation for repairing or replacing. So when Habib had done their report, they actually listed these their items in a scoping report from like 1 to 4. There, with 1 being the most needy, so you would need to replace it right away. 4 being a code issue that you can replace it over time, and 2 and 3 being maintenance issues that you can cover in 3 to 5 years. When we do this, we're going to be looking at it just a little bit differently because we're looking at a whole building. We're going to be saying either you're replacing all of those systems all at once because we're doing an addition and renovation, or we're looking at it because we're turning this entire building into a like new building. So you'll see you might see the same line items, but you might see them, the cost estimates different, laid out differently. There was also some escalation included in Habib's report. You will see this escalated to the 5-year mark when we will be fully done with our building. So just keep that in mind. If you go back and forth between the 2 reports, feel free to ask me about any of those conditions, but that's where the differences might be. As we move forward, I wanted to bring to your attention some of the reports that we have received, and what I'll be doing over the next 3 meetings that we have is sort of outlining on a higher level what you'll see in those reports, so that if you were to look at the report, you would know kind of on a high level what's going to be in there in the space summary. So starting with the structural pieces, overall, the building's in fair to good condition structurally. You do have some areas of repair that are needed as we move through the building. What we actually were looking at when we had our structural engineer assess this building was the feasibility of renovation or expansion. And that's really important, like what parts of these buildings are worth keeping and how much would it cost to structurally upgrade the building to meet today's current structural codes. Go ahead. So when we're looking at buildings for structurally repairing or replacing, we're looking at 3 different ways for a compliance method because we have to achieve current code. Those 3 ways are prescription method, the work area method, and the performance method. This is just an outline. I'm not going to read it all to you because that would take all night. It will be in the slide deck when you get to see them. As we move through this, this outlines the amount of work that would have to be done in each of those methods. Go ahead, one more forward. So the summary of findings actually believes the way that the structural engineer did the report, he believes that the work area compliance method would be the most efficient and cost-effective way to look at this building. So as we move through our additions and renovation options, that's the application that we will be using going forward. Any proposed major renovation to this building will require us to meet current code. Okay, so another important fact here is if your building is today and you're not having major renovations, you don't need to meet current code. But anytime you touch a portion of that building, you have to bring all of those systems, and this is not just structural, but all systems within the building, up to current code. And then depending on how much of that building, it usually goes by either percentage or cost, determines how much renovation you have to bring up to current code. Okay. So that's for structural, and then we looked at the plumbing observations. Overall, your fixtures are in pretty poor condition, and most of them do not meet the current water-saving code. So if we were to do a renovation of this building, we would be replacing every plumbing fixture within the building. And then we would also be looking at the piping and drainage systems that get to those plumbing fixtures. Most of those are 60 years old, and at a time of renovation, that would be the time to upgrade those as well. And so these are areas where I think you might see the biggest differences between our reports or costs and what you had seen in the previous ones. So Habib's was looking at maintenance only, how do we keep these things going, and ours will be looking at the cost of replacement. And then finally, fire protection. First of all, you're very lucky that you do have a fire protection. We deal with lots of schools that don't have fire protection in them. 50 years ago, it wasn't required. You do have it, but it was added at the time of the first renovations to this building. So you're looking at sprinkler systems and fire protection systems are about 27, nearing 30 years old. And so they're nearing the end of their useful life, and those will all be replaced throughout the building, whether we touch that area, if it's a addition and renovation, if it's a portion of the building that's being renovated, we will replace the entire sprinkler system, not repair it. Okay. So that's what I wanted to cover as far as the reports that we've already seen. Go ahead, and I'm going to turn it over to Mike so he can bring you up to date with all the work that we've been doing for the educational programming, starting with grade separation.
Since we, oh, right, I forgot. Since we last, since we last spoke, we've had a number of meetings with staff. We actually met in programming meetings with every single program area in the building. Everyone from the nurse to administration to central office to world language to every single special education service provider, related service provider. They also provided asynchronously additional information about their vision and program in a Google Doc that we then brought to the meetings and had further conversations about. The other thing we've also done is started to have, with a smaller leadership group of folks, further programming conversations and conversations specifically about a couple of topics. One of which is this idea of grade separations and how the building ultimately is organized, where programs belong, where classes belong in these two different design enrollments. So what you see here is kind of a study of how grades can kind of be organized and stacked within a building and different levels and layers of separation or connection. The group is considering landing more in this B option. In option A, what it shows is in a 6 to 12 scenario, that sixth grade is really kind of more insular in its own kind of sixth grade academy, if you will, or a sixth grade house. So that way they're like physically, spatially kind of connected, and they just spend the majority of their core academic time in those classes. They obviously would still venture out into all the shared spaces in the building, the cafeteria, the gym, all of those things, but they take their main classes within just that academic space. The option on the right is exploring what happens if 6th, 7th, and 8th are really all physically connected and experientially connected, meaning that's where all their core academic classes are, and there may be flow between those different pods, and teachers may also flow between those pods, but there is definitely a level of separation between those middle grades, those true middle grades, and then grades 9 to 12. Do you want to add anything to that?
I was just going to say, so that's where we landed when I mentioned looking at B, that it would remain more traditional like we have it now. A middle school, that would be more like an actual middle school, that it would be 6, 7, and 8, and then a 9 through 12 high school operating separately. Separate administration, separate schools. Obviously, nothing changes overnight, so how many departments are sharing staff now? I think 5 or 6 of the departments across the schools are now sharing staff between the middle school and the high school, just based on size and enrollments and, you know, maintaining people at full-time equivalency. So there still would have to be an aligned schedule for sharing staff. There would still be shared, likely cafeteria space, auditorium space, gyms, all those larger spaces, but it would continue to operate the way we currently are seeing that, continuing to operate as 2 separate schools if it was the 6 to 12 path that ultimately was decided by the group.
Any questions about that before I go on? Okay, so then we looked at options for of what a 7 to 12 model may look like. Starting over in letter C, in that option, we maintain this current organization essentially of 7th and 8th grade remains connected, and then 9 to 12 remains connected, and there's that clear line of separation between those grades. In option D, we explore what happens if we kind of bring 9th grade down into this middle school experience, and 7, 8, and 9 are more closely physically connected, experientially connected, and then those upper grades are in their kind of own world. Letter E and letter F is really where the group is considering leaning toward, and it's really a blend of those 2 scenarios. In scenario E, what this is showing you spatially is that 7th grade, just like in the 6 to 12 version, 7th grade kind of exists in their own kind of 7th grade house, 7th grade pod. that they remain in that pod for the majority of their day when they're taking core academic classes, but again, they would venture out into the other areas of the building. What's interesting about that is 7th and 8th grade teachers are going to share students because there's going to be crossover with staff. Special education programs in the middle school grades also cross between 7th and 8th grade. So although 7th grade may kind of be a bit protected because it serves as more of that transition year, there's still a world where 7th and 8th grade interacts and spends time together, which is why in letter F, there's more opportunities to kind of allow that to happen. So letter F is essentially saying what happens if there really is just a blend of 7th through 12th grades. It doesn't mean that a 7th grader and a 12th grader are right next to each other in a class, but it just means maybe 7th and 8th remains on one floor or stacked above each other, and then 9 to 12 are in the other pods that are organized in the building. But it doesn't mean that an 8th grader couldn't go and take a class that's in a 9th grade class and, something like that. Again, in these scenarios, in letters, was it fair to say in all of them that this changes the administrative structure in your mind? Is that accurate to say? That this becomes one unified school, one unified whatever we decide to call it, but it's one administration that oversees all students, one school identity.
So if I can just add, so this is what the school committee information sessions and feedback sessions will be about, this concept of how, when I say we're administratively organizing the school, the discussion that we had on Monday night, as Mike just said, right, all of these assume that we're going to a single administrative structure, currently a campus of around 800 students. Part of the discussion we had Monday night and throughout the very many conversations we've had over the recent weeks is around the opportunity to remove a transition, right? What we keep talking about is the fact that we have a middle school that's 7 and 8. Students have a year to transition in and a year to transition to high school. And so there really isn't an opportunity for the middle school to create a multi-year culture, get it, acclimated. And so part of the value here of having it be under one school, and then it's a determination of how we break it out, talk about transitions from elementary for 7th grade specifically, has to do with an opportunity to remove a full transition. So students are in pre-K through 6 for hopefully, likely, most of them for those 7 years, 8 years, and then transition once up to this campus to this school. Whatever the ultimate configuration is, it's one transition. It's a single school, single language, single culture, where we currently have 2 schools existing. So that was a real, strong value add for this idea is removing a full transition. So then obviously that's very nuanced about how that all happens. And so as Mike said, the group has landed between E and F, where there's a real strong value in transitioning in 7th grade and have that be their school through 12th grade. We also don't want to have 7th graders sitting next to 12th graders in class, in lunch. And so they ride the bus together, right? So there's nothing new there. And so where we landed in this current model that we'll share for further feedback from the community and staff is that we somehow create a 7th grade academy of sorts that creates that year of transition. And then as they transition to 8th grade, they then enter that kind of 8 through 12 general population, if you will. And we had talked about ways of, if there's ways to have a more physical separation for 7th grade, not that there's a separate wing or structures, it's just, scheduling more contained. And then in 8th grade and 9th grade, largely we'd be scheduling 8th and 9th graders together routinely in their schedule, and then sophomores, juniors, and seniors, just by the nature of the coursework they're taking. So that's where we are at the moment. Again, certainly we can have some discussion here with the building committee. The school committee had lots of discussion. The school committee will have the information session on July 22nd, right before our next meeting, August 11th, and then they'll come back and not take any votes, but give final feedback, because this ends up driving, as we keep talking about, the ed plan, that educational program and plan, that's part of that PDP submission on we need it in September. It's submitted in October 15th. This is a huge component of how that whole plan is laid out, and so that's why we're needing to make a decision on that this summer. So, thoughts, questions, comments, concerns? Great idea, hate the idea?
All right, on the next slide. On the next slide, what you see here are essentially what we call adjacency bubble diagrams. They're not floor plans. The intention is not to say this is what your building looks like, but it's just to play with what wants to be near each other and what has this spatial and experiential connection. So on the left and the right, these are essentially what we call learning communities or learning pods. It's where a big trend of education is going. It's just a way of organizing classrooms around some type of shared central space. It has a variety of different scale size classrooms, full-size special ed rooms, support spaces for students receiving extra support or interventions, teacher planning spaces, things like that. What you see in the center called academic breakout is a flexible area where multiple classes can work together, small groups can work together. And then in the center you see science, because we're looking at pairing sciences next to one another because they share a lot of materials and resources. When we had the program meetings with each group, with each content area, they had a lot of different opinions about all being together as a content area because there's many pros and cons in that model. Others felt interested in the idea of going to a more interdisciplinary model, especially those at the middle grades, because the middle school team-based model is very much interdisciplinary by nature. And so I continue to say that my goal as the planner for the architects in the district is to really ensure that this building is flexible over time to allow these pods to either support departmental models of education or interdisciplinary models of education. So we're studying how many classrooms are truly needed to support a departmental model at its like highest max level, so that way you have that flexibility over time. Questions about that? Okay. The next slide, and I will tell you, we've had a lot of meetings since and conversations since, so even these diagrams are outdated, but in a really good way that they're outdated because they've continued to really morph. You see media is added to this diagram. This is communicating that media really becomes more academically embedded and almost becomes kind of the heart of the academic experience for students, that it becomes more than just this kind of destination and location for books, that it provides many more opportunities. We also explored the idea of media having its kind of central location, but also expanding media's reach by putting smaller areas of media throughout the building to allow for books and resources to be closer to students, but really the main area where the students would gather is still a central location, so it can be supervised by the staff member. And the next diagram is specifically looking at arts and tech ed spaces. We had lots of conversation about how do we embed more programs like certain tech programs or art programs to allow for more of that interdisciplinary opportunity. We know at the end of the day, some spaces like your wood shop, your tech ed space, things like that really belong by an exit door or by a tall high bay where you can get deliveries of wood and materials like that, whereas an art class could potentially be more academically embedded. So the MSBA gives us an allotment of square footage for tech type spaces, and so we're continuing to have more program conversations about what those tech spaces become in the future, since you do have the opportunity to kind of expand your offerings further than what you have now. Questions about that? Okay.
Don't switch it. So one thing that you don't see on this slide are things like your gym and your theater and the cafeteria, and we view those as more public spaces. So what we've been looking at right now is where is the line between the public spaces and Oh, thank you, so sorry. Do I have to repeat? Oh, okay. Where is the line between those public spaces and those private spaces? And that's why we're looking at some of those art and the media centers being more embedded in the private, the academic side, and then those other spaces that you don't see right at the moment, those will be part of your public side, shared spaces with other programs with, outside of the school. Okay, so last month, we had a sustainability meeting. I think some of you were there. I saw your names on the agenda. Good. So this was the agenda that they went over for that sustainability meeting. Go ahead and give that a click there. Thank you. And one of the things that you covered was what was required by the MSBA. What were their requirements for LEED v4? So sorry, keep echoing. We are trying right now to look at where we're going to be. What is it that you want for sustainability? Where do you want to land in your moving forward? And then how many points you need to achieve all of that. So if you hit that, thank you. What you covered was the additional reimbursement from the MSBA for achieving different levels and earning certain points. And you can see here, you can get the 3 additional reimbursement points if you meet certain energy optimizations. You will get an additional reimbursement point if you reach another level of those requirements within that spreadsheet for LEED. And then you can combine those and get an additional 4%. Go ahead and hit that one more. So the meeting outcome was that everybody at the table there had believed that you would be wanting to go for that 4% option, which would mean that we have to meet the stretch code, and we have to do that through something called the TEDI model, and that we would look for the additional LEED credit points to get that additional reimbursement from the MSBA. We looked at different ways to achieve that and how you want to look at it on your site, where you want to work with your site to help you achieve those items, and then whether or not you wanted to look at geothermal wells. And what we understood was it was worth the exploration to look at that. So that's one of the things that we're going to be looking at. We're going to see first whether or not it's feasible, and then how do we achieve it to meet your goals. Did you want to add anything since you were at the meeting? No? Go ahead.
I think the only thing I would add, because it wasn't evident to me when we first started that meeting, is that percentage is on the entire project. So it's not just on these elements, it is literally every classroom.
Yes.
Those eligible costs, you're getting 3 or 4% more. It's not specific to just these elements of the building project. So it can be a huge amount of money because it's taken across the entire project, not just on these sustainability elements.
That's absolutely correct, yes. And it goes well beyond, you have to commit to producing paperwork a year after as well, to show that you've achieved all those goals. So it's a commitment on your side. We're going to run through the feasibility part of it. We're going to try to achieve these for you, and we'll be able to talk a little bit more about it as we go through the project.
Michelle, I'll just quickly add, it was a great conversation. Thank you for everyone attending, taking the time out. One of the big summary points that is probably here somewhere, but maybe not exactly, was that long-term operational costs were a consideration as well. Not just, let's try to get as many LEED points as possible, which is obviously great to do that, and sustainability is great, but it needs to, make sense from an operational cost perspective. If there's an upfront investment, they want to look at the long-term life cycle. What is it going to save us in the what is it going to cost us in the short term? What is the payback period on that? So those are the kind of conversations that we were having, and good to have some follow-up on there. Also, Narissa, you've burned in my brain that we have acronyms on the screen that we didn't explain. I think people know what LEED is, but TGE is the green engineer. So they're the sustainability consultant working with the Doran Whittier team.
Any
All right.
other questions?
I don't even think that was a question. I think I just rambled.
No, that's okay. All right, so the long-awaited work plan, and again, this is several sheets of one spreadsheet. But this is how we put out the work plan. Again, you'll be able to see all the line items as we go through. We continuously update this on a daily basis. What we do is we've taken the MSBA requirements, we've plugged them into our work plan, we've organized it in a way that helps us achieve the dates that we need to achieve and keep everybody on track. So at any point in time, you'll be able to say, oh, wait a minute, are we ahead of schedule or behind schedule on any particular line item as we go through? So I'm not going to touch every one of
Michelle's gonna read every single.
I'm
yeah.
not. But we have a lot of completes, only in the first part. So this goes all the way through the schematic design portion, or I'm sorry, to issuing the PSR, thank you.
Do you want to read maybe like the sections?
So we have our initial startup, which we have completed most of our startup work. And then the ed programming, as you can see, where that is ongoing. We're discussing the grade configuration. You can see that's in bold. We've started that work. We're hoping to complete it. It says
August
7/6.
19th or
August
September
19th,
16th.
yep. Those 2 dates are important to us when it goes back out to the school committee. Space summary, we've been working with Mike to accomplish that space summary, and we've had already a really great meeting on a portion of that space summary, and we have another one coming back up. And evaluation of the existing conditions, as I've showed you before, that's ongoing work, and we'll continue to update you as that work proceeds. Site development requirements, that involves some of the work of niche engineering, who's out here looking at your site, and our civil engineer, as well as your wastewater treatment plant. And then we begin to step into our evaluation of alternatives. So we'll be developing the alternatives throughout August and September, and then we'll begin an evaluation process of those. And then, of course, your local actions and approvals. Is that my last one? Maybe? No? Okay, keep going.
And just
It's a
for
lot.
people to be aware, local actions and approvals is a PMA deliverable. We take all the meeting minutes that have occurred related to the project. MSBA wants to see the public outreach effort, and we put it into a letter format, and we compile all the backup, and requires some sign-offs from folks. So just so you're aware of what these are on the screen.
So the work plan is, go ahead, Yoon. The work plan is actually a requirement by the MSBA. They want to see how we do our work and how we organize our schedule. What's really important is where we need interaction with you. So we've developed these calendar dates along with overarching media agendas. These calendars, if Joe here was about to click through all of the way through, they go all the way out until April of next year. But right now, I just wanted to focus on the summer months here. We have several meetings coming up, and we have the agenda items. These will be updated regularly. So as we move through the next few meetings, you're going to see all of them tonight, all of these calendars, and they'll be in your slide deck. As we go through our meetings from now until next year, we will be showing you 1 or 2 of these slides, just so that you have in your mind what's coming up, what meetings are out there, when do we get public interaction, and what's, you know, how is that all going to lay out for the coming dates. So in July here we are on the 8th, which is great. On the 22nd, we have that community outreach meeting that we've discussed a little bit about. And then we also have a school building committee meeting. And you can see, oops, sorry, on the side, as we go through, if we've missed a meeting, like we did in June, the agenda for the meeting will get twice as long as it did this time. But this will just help you understand when we're meeting throughout the months. Coming in August, we have 1 school building committee meeting, but also 1 community outreach meeting. And then in September, yep. In September, we'll be looking for the school committee to vote on the education ed plan, and then we'll have a school building committee meeting to start reviewing the costs and options. And then I think we can go a little bit quicker through the next few. They're all set up the same way.
Well, we also have a quick placeholder there towards the end of the month in September for the building committee's kind of community outreach efforts. We thought, just as a placeholder, we put that Tuesday. But we thought the week after the building committee meeting in September made a lot of sense. But we'll figure that out as it gets closer, and I know we have a communications working group meeting this Friday as well.
Did you add community outreach since the last agenda?
Yes.
Okay, it looked like there was a lot more now, okay.
All right, so the important date here in October is a delivery over the PDP. We're shooting for October 15th. Gonna star on the holiday.
We have a conflict here with a meeting date that we need to figure out. Brian, I know November 11th, so I don't know if we want to figure that out. Probably offline.
Or we can just ask people if it makes sense to move it back to the Thursday, the 12th. Or, we were originally the 19th, obviously we have Thanksgiving in there. And then the school committee meets on the 18th, nothing to do with the building project, but that's a hard conflict. So we bumped it the week before, and then I didn't even notice that was Veterans Day. So we could bump it to the 10th, the Tuesday, or the Thursday, the 12th.
I think the 12th probably makes the most sense. If anyone else has anything. Oh, is there a DCC that meeting that day?
We haven't scheduled DCC for the.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Yep, we can schedule that on that.
Perfect.
Would be likely the 19th, actually.
Would have been the 19th or the 26th.
Yeah, I think it'd be the 19th.
Be the 19th, or the third Thursday.
It usually is, yeah. But
So we'll-
Wednesday and.
We'll tentatively shift it to the
Wednesday,
12th,
or,
and then show that, and then people can let us know if there's conflicts.
Okay, great.
And then we could probably Zoom, right?
Yep, we can start to zoom through some of these now.
So just to confirm, on October, it looks like there's 2 building committees.
Yes.
Yes.
That was looking at something like 7 o'clock.
One is to prep for the community outreach, which will be sharing with the community everything that was issued in the PDP, including the costs.
So we're adding, so the 21st wasn't in the regular meeting, we're adding October 7th.
We will need October 7th ahead of the PDP submission to approve the PDP.
Assuming that works for this group tonight, thank you for flagging that.
So I mean, it's Wednesday, right? That seemed to be, I thought you said, so Wednesday seemed to be good, so. I don't think there's any school committee conflicts, so that's good. So that makes sense to put it on there. If the slide deck is attached to the boardable agenda now, so if people take a look at the calendar, it's just let me know.
Okay.
All right. Like Michelle said, we won't be sharing this many months every time we meet. This was just more to show how they've kind of plotted it out.
All right.
All right. Take a break. So, community outreach, right on cue. When we last met with our building committee here, would you mind distributing these, Anthony? Actually, we could just send a stack each way. Could take one, pass one. We talked about whether it was appropriate to host a community forum this early. We all kind of leaned towards no. PMA offered to put together kind of a one-pager summarizing where we're at, next steps, and when public feedback will be solicited and really desired for this project in accordance with our current project schedule. So working with the communications working group, we were able to develop this and refine it. I think it came out pretty nicely. It's semi-legible on the screen here, but the top section is really project background, why invest in Triton, a lot of information that this group already knows in terms of the aging infrastructure, the MSBA opportunity in front of us, and the educational impacts of the existing school. We've outlined the MSBA process with what comes next. So what is the PDP? When are we submitting that? What is the PSR into schematic design and local funding approval? We have kind of a milestone section there towards the middle of the page. And then we have this kind of yellow section highlighting that key critical feedback period for the public, where we'll have the initial construction options. We'll be looking for their feedback in terms of what is most important in establishing the selection criteria, and culminating in the ultimate decision by this committee in January 2027 of the one preferred option and enrollment configuration, and then really how to get involved. So we have the project website that Brian puts a lot of time into and is great. We have the Facebook and Instagram pages that are now live. We have the YouTube page that is recording us and live streaming as we speak, and obviously the public meetings, which we're also doing as we speak. So we talked at the meeting, it was a little over a month ago now, actually, unbelievably, about other opportunities. We're going to meet again on Friday. But one of the things that we talked about was feeling better about the November timeline. So that part of what's held up are, let's go live on social media, let's start posting in the community groups, was making sure that everybody here felt good about the November 2027 funding approval timeline, which, Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, and I'll also maybe open it up to the floor a little bit, but I think we have a better confidence from this team now, but open to.
Yeah, I think the question around, I guess it would have been the May building committee, was making sure there was enough public input into the process before we're ready to commit and say, yes, this works. And so obviously now on the slides, from September through January, there's a monthly feedback session, basically, right? And I know we'll determine, you've got kind of the broad topics of what we'd be covering for community feedback. But I think that my takeaway from the May meeting was making sure there was a clear plan for public input before we're ready to say, yes, we're good to commit for the PDP by September, October, and then yes, good to commit by late January for the PSR when we're choosing that preferred design. So yeah, I think that's the question now is does the group have the confidence to say, yes, we're good with targeting that November 2027? And if yes, then it's a run, not a jog.
Maybe another way to ask it is if there's any concerns with November?
Just in terms of writing the ed program.
Yes. Ultimately,
So, yeah, that's way before November, yeah.
ultimately, if we get to late December and we're looking around this table going, we need a couple more months, we will make that decision in terms of what's best for the project. And MSBA isn't going to say, no, you need to go secure local funding in November. They want us to have a successful project as well. But the team here on this side of the table feels confident that where we're at right now, November is very viable. But we obviously we don't want to force anybody into anything. We want to make sure everybody's comfortable.
So I don't see anyone opposed to that, so, sorry, I'm not sharing this, you are. But I think if we're good with that, that becomes, we take the to be confirmed, and we could say that the school building committee is good with using that as a target. Again, I forget who just said it, Joe or Michelle, right? That will remain fluid. It's a target, and we're going, full steam ahead making that happen. But the reality is, once we start digging in, literally and figuratively, right, when we talk about all the various options that we continue to study, there might be something that comes up that will require more time. And that the nice thing is that gives us some buffer to bump to after the holidays and still remain in the winter and not go automatically out the 6 months from November to the May annual town meetings, April and May annual town meetings.
So I'm hearing everyone's good with November? Perfect.
Excellent. So we can now share this. I know people have had ideas about, different ways to get this out to the public. We can talk about that on Friday as well, but this is now ready to go. Any tweaks that people have, let us know. We're happy to, we got this on Canva and we can edit the text or whatever else needs to be done. So let us know, but we're ready to go live with this document online and start getting people caught up as to where we are and what's to come. So thank you all, and we'll continue it on Friday. Friday, is it a 1
o'clock, but I think we're good we were just waiting for the confirmation of November, so you can, as far as I'm concerned, you can share this.
Awesome. Awesome. Great. Yeah, we just wanted to chat with the building committee at the last meeting to kind of lock it in, but then that got postponed, so we've kind of held off just a little
And I
bit.
think we had talked about, we're handing out free meals at, how many sites? 8 different sites. So we'll start handing these out and just starting getting the paper distributed. And again, I did a quick scoop video to share those information sessions in July and August. We'll attach this one-page flyer to that, so we'll start to push it out routinely.
Great. We have like I mentioned before, the social media pages are up and running, so we will get these on there as well. We'll start posting in the different community groups. We have another kind of planned post on the right side there for the school committee hosted community info and feedback sessions, July 22nd and August 11th, related to the 6 through 12 or 7 through 12, and what does that look like, kind of also where are we, and anyone giving their feedback back to us. So lots of good things to come, and by the next time we meet, we'll be happy to report out some statistics on all the hits that our Facebook page is getting and all that sort of stuff. We had some activity after school committee on Monday night, so.
Is there a way, social media-wise, people can ask questions?
Yes.
And get this? Is it via website, or how does it work?
Yes, so there is a way to ask questions both on the project website and on the social media pages. There's a way for them to send their questions in.
It's a page, not, so the posts, can people comment on that?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
So just one thing on, we can discuss like who responds to the comments, so you don't have to maybe do it all.
Sure, absolutely.
On Friday, we'll have that.
That makes a lot of sense for us to discuss on Friday.
We also know some of the personalities as well.
Yes. I'll give you in general, when BMA's done this in the past in projects, we respond to questions that people have for like factual information. If someone just makes an opinion statement, we don't try to change somebody's mind or reply to it, whether it's supportive or not. And then there's obviously a gray area there where people ask things in a way it's never that easy.
Yeah.
But that's just our general is, we reply, we provide factual information. We're not there to necessarily change anybody's mind or anything like that. So we'll chat further on Friday, absolutely. We understand what we're potentially getting ourselves into, though. So we talked a little bit about the meeting schedule for the remainder of the year when it was kind of a cleaner calendar format there. I highlighted the 7 p.m. start for the next meeting because we're pushing it out a little bit on the tail end of the community info session. I highlighted the November 11th date, which we're going to now tentatively say is the 12th. This I'll update tomorrow and post to the Facebook page and pin it so when anyone comes to our Facebook page, they'll see the 2026 Building Committee schedule and how to watch it on YouTube and where to find a summary. Before we move on, I'll just say, big thank you to everybody involved on the communication side of things and meeting with us and sharing your ideas. This is often one of the most challenging part of these projects. Also, really big thank you to John and everybody helping compile all those PDP deliverables that Michelle shared below. I think, John, you've toured with every single one of those sub-consulting groups. A lot of them were multiple visits, so it's hours on top of your full-time job. So we really appreciate it. All right.
So the last thing that we wanted to cover was some of those initial options that we have to look at as we're looking at the 2 design enrollments, the 6 through 12 and the 7 through 12. So these option narratives give you an outline of the 8 options that we are obligated to look at. Some of them might be expanded, which I'll go through in just a moment. So we're going to start with the grades 7 through 12 as our primary 1 through 4 options. So the nomenclature for this is going to be RO, meaning renovations only, RN, meaning renovations and additions, RO, meaning repairs only. Thank you. I should be able to read it, right? Repairs only. So those are the systems maintenance and upgrades, and that would be a full building system and maintenance upgrades. RN is the renovations for the building, so there are no additions to a building. There are only renovations within the entire building. AR is additions and renovations. So this is, if you remember, our proposal showed an addition and renovation option where we we kept your theater in your gymnasium, but lopped off all the academic classrooms and built new academic classrooms. That would be something similar to that. And then a new option for just grades 7 through 12. Grades 7 through 12 has a design enrollment of 895 students, so all of these would be based on those options. If we
Note that there might be multiple.
Yes,
We're just
so,
about to, aren't you?
exactly. So in your repairs only, that's the only repairs only option you will see. In your renovation option, you might get one or two, but more than likely, it'll be just this one. When we get to additions and renovations and new options, there are times where we might present more than one of those options. And in that case, we would label them with a 1 after them or 2 after them. So there is a chance that these 4 could expand to potentially 6 or more. We have the same set of narratives and options for your 6 through 12, but in 6 through 12, we're looking at 1,070 students. Again, the repairs only option for 6 through 12, that is really a test fit. Can we fit grade 6 with all of the needs of an additional grade grouping into this building? So expanding the administration to include, take care of all of the additional grade level there, all the special education that comes with grade 6, and any of the other necessary classrooms that might be required as we expand this building to include grade 6. So that's a test fit with repairs only. Then we would have the renovations. What do we need to renovate? That might be right-sizing classrooms or changing configurations within the building. Additions and renovations, that would be essentially the same way that we would look at the 7 through 12 and then a new building. So again, you might have more than one option for addition and renovations or more than one option for a new building. So we're going potentially from 8 to 12 different options. And we're going to be doing that starting in August and working our way through October. Or early, by the end of September, we'll have all of those done. Any questions about the options that we'll be looking at? Anything that you might be thinking that we should be looking at that's not up there? Okay.
A quick note. Go ahead, Narissa.
Okay.
What makes you decide to add additional options into those last 2? So is it driven by the education plan? Is it driven, why?
Yeah, it
Why
might
would
be,
you have more than
so when we're looking at additions and renovations, for one instance, we might decide that we're going to keep the gymnasium, the theater, and the cafeteria, but in another option, we might say, well, not that cafeteria, we're going to add a different size cafeteria. That's a whole different option. It will have a different cost to it. Or we might lop off the gym and make a new gym, but keep the theater in. So those are the kind of small pieces that change an option and they change the cost. So anytime that we're doing something different that would have a financial impact on the design, it's a whole new option.
Gotcha. So it's like variations on a theme, not
Exactly.
Yes.
not
It's
a total
wholesale.
different plan B.
Right,
Okay.
and that's why it's going to be within that same category.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Might have to do with trying to fit the site better for
Yeah.
the new options, right? Just different, how to fit the same type of building on a site.
And then your new building, you might have 2 completely different shaped, 3 different, completely different shaped buildings. We've done H buildings and starship buildings and, winged buildings.
Yeah,
The
we
way
don't want a
that
T
it always-
building.
Pardon me?
We don't want a T building.
And no T buildings, okay.
One quick note, we had our kickoff meeting with the MSBA not too long ago, a little over a month ago, I'd say. And one of the topics that came up is that they really want to know what's going to happen at the other 3 elementary schools in case we do move forward with the 6 through 12 option. So that's something that this team is going to have to explore this summer and be able to kind of write about for that PDP submission to MSBA. And there was a note from MSBA that there is a potential that MSBA recovers some costs associated with Pine Grove Elementary School project in that case where you take kids out of that school before the full useful life of those MSBA funds are utilized. So there's not a definite on that, and there's not a range of costs yet. But essentially what it would look like is MSBA would reduce your maximum grant by whatever they kind of recover through the Rowley project. So that's a big cliffhanger because we don't have a lot of info on there, but we thought it was important to kind of share that with you all as a factor in all of this.
And I think just to state that in all possible scenarios, a 6 through 12 building is significantly more costly than a 7 through 12 building, right? There's no way around that fact. It is a building designed for 1,070, right? 1,070 students versus 895. How many square feet was that total? It was it's 8 classrooms, I think you said, Mike?
Yes, but then a bigger cafeteria.
Right. So just off the bat, eight additional 900-ish, 850, 900 square foot classrooms, again, bigger gym, bigger cafeteria, bigger all those spaces. So it's on the design itself, we know it's tens of millions of dollars more to build that building. Is there money that would be recovered through the Pine Grove project? I think that would be small potatoes compared to the actual cost. Ultimately, though, right, through all the discussions to date, there's been remarkable momentum from an educational perspective, from an educational vision and pedagogy and culture and all that. There's been remarkable momentum for that being the ideal option. So I think that's where this committee will end up having a challenging conversation. Does the cost-benefit analysis make the decision? And obviously, we're way too soon predictions because we have to study that through the PDP and through PSR in January. So,
And I just want to be clear that the cost estimates that you see will not include any of the money that Joe just spoke about. We don't know what that would be. We wouldn't know until probably SD.
They're saying they'll start to get, initially in their enrollment letter, they said with the return of the schematic design review comments, they would share what that recovery amount may be. We asked if we could have that information sooner because it could inform the decision depending on the amount. And they said that they will give us clearer direction after we submit PDP. So we'll have clearer direction on that in the end of October.
So
They didn't
They're-
firmly commit to saying you will know X dollars, but they said we can accelerate that conversation and you'll know if this is
So
going to happen.
the cost estimates that you will see for PDP options will be strictly for PDP options and not include any of the money that we just spoke about.
Don't forget the bus situation. It would be like the
implication, yeah.
Excellent.
It's quite group tonight.
We're getting through this pretty quickly. Actually, I think we
it's
made you
tired.
all afraid that this meeting was going to go much longer. Last on the agenda is the budget and invoice approval. We have one invoice for PMA tonight. We have a big note in red on the bottom there because I didn't trust myself to remember to say this to you all if I didn't put that there. So Doran Whittier's invoice number 1 will be submitted to this SBC at the August meeting for approval, and it's going to be for the last number of months as they've been kicking off the project. We will request a motion that the building committee approves PMA invoice number 4914-05 in the amount dated June 25th, 2026, in the amount of $18,035.
I make a motion that we approve the PMA invoice.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you.
Good. Right. This is our wrap-up slide. So any questions in general or any other feedback people may have or thoughts?
Can I ask one question about process for warrant approvals? So, right, these are easy now. Once we get into the meat of things, there are very detailed, and certainly if we, when we get that approval and we're into the building phase,
Yes.
it's massive. Does the building committee want a different structure for a subcommittee or a group that reviews warrants separately in more detail. I don't think the committee, every time we meet, wants to go through hundreds of pages of invoices from subcontractors and all of that. But I guess that's just interested to know the will of the committee on thoughts on that.
Just to give a little bit of background, so currently, the chair and vice chair are both essentially getting a warrant to sign off on, similar to the school committee's finance subcommittee, and then it would be coming here for a vote. So you could do it like school committee, where there's like, they accept it, and then there's a consent agenda later on.
Yeah, I guess the question is, are we gonna, are Matt and Jim good with being the detailed people looking through all the invoices? Or, I mean, obviously, we've got PMA looking through them, reviewing, right? That's part of the job of why we have an owner's project manager. So I'm not saying we have to add a committee. I just was just checking on the will of the group. If that's a good process, Jim and Matt sign off.
I'm good with it if everyone else is. And just on the Door and Whittier invoice, if you can send that to us in advance, so I can review it earlier the better. Because I'm assuming it's going to be pretty large and detailed.
Not staggering, but
Are all the
around
consultants-
2.5 times what was just approved, I think, for us.
Are all the consultants' individual bills going to be on there?
They, for Dorn Whittier's base services, they're typically not broken out. For
Okay, that's-
additional services, as defined by MSBA, those get broken out with invoice backup.
Okay,
Right.
okay.
Okay.
perfect.
Exactly,
I should just
exactly,
let
yep.
you answer. It's about me.
So Joe, is that by phase then?
Yes, so they'll be submitting an invoice. They actually submitted a whole cash flow drawdown that we were happy with, and we can share as well. So we kind of know what to expect. They're more lump sum oriented than us, so we have some variance depending how busy.
The phases actually follow what was in the contract?
Yes.
So it was actually outlined, well, it's even more broken down than that, but it was feasibility through, the feasibility phase and the schematic design phase in the contract.
We are thinking that once Dorn Whittier's invoice is approved by this building committee, that PMA can then submit the first reimbursement request to MSBA on your behalf and get half of all this money back for you guys, plus half.
Jordan had a question.
I guess, going back to the 6 versus 12, and I think just one thing to be cognizant of throughout the process is going to be, how will operating costs moving forward be impacted by a decision to go from 6 to 12? And then, and then just with the different school options in general, will we be benefiting from, what will the net operating costs potentially be of a newer building or, with upgrades? I think just keeping that context in mind is going to be very important when we get to, the vote process and how that might impact future operating budgets in towns, so.
That's part of the feasibility study for the MSBA, but will you break it down by option? Probably not.
So for the preferred option, MSBA requires that you look at your future operating costs. They don't require that you look at it for however many options we're going to end up at here.
But Brian and Rich can come up
But
with
we
like,
can,
rough numbers.
MSBA requirement or not, we can, that's a worthwhile endeavor for sure.
Yeah, part of the challenge will be, as Joe mentioned, we've got to build the case, maybe it was Michelle that said that, we've got to build the case in the PDP on not just the benefit of bringing sixth grade here, but how we're going to use that space. We've got a clear case at Pine Grove School because of space and enrollments. We've already got excess space at both Salisbury Elementary and Newbury Elementary. That's going to be a hard cost-benefit analysis to argue. Again, we'll do our best to say, hey, here are the benefits. But the reality is we don't lose any space at the elementaries, and we're adding, make up a number, 10,000 square feet of space over here that we're conditioning and heating, cooling, lighting, all of that. So I don't think there's any scenario where we're not increasing OpEx. Let alone the CapEx costs up front to actually build the building.
I think by the next time we meet with you, we would have the difference in those two square footages because they are part of the space summary. So we'll know the total square footage that we'd be targeting for both the 7 through 12 as well as the
Great.
6 through 12.
Real quick, isn't the school committee's job to do what you were just explaining there? It's not our job, right?
Say that one more time?
Is that the school committee's job to pick if they're going from 6 to 12 or 7 to 12?
Ultimately, it's the school committee's job, again, to make the determination of what those structures would look like. It'll be the building committee saying that we believe the right option, and again, it's going to be finances. So I think that we'll get public feedback. I don't want to put words, but it's been largely positive about being able to have a true middle school. And then it will be this committee's job to say, okay, we're balancing that against the cost of that. Is that something that we can then go back to our various constituents and say, hey, here's what we're arguing for as the preferred option?
So that doesn't bump up to any policy of the school committee and everything? Okay.
I have a question. The reports from structural and geotech and all that are posted or will be available or are available?
They're part of the PDP submission.
We'll make them available to them in advance of the submission, right? You want to look at it before that?
We're going to be right up against time.
They're available to us to look, to review or not?
So they will absolutely be available as part of the PDP. So you'll, pardon me?
Not prior.
We'll try to get them to you prior, but we're going to be right up against. So we get them now, we go through a review, we send them back to the consultants, we ask for updates, we try to make sure that everybody's on the, submitting the same kind of information, there's no conflicting information, and then we have to compile all of it into our formats. We're going to be right up against the timeline to do that, but if we can get it out to you a couple weeks in advance, we will do that.
Are there any specific that you're more interested in and they could hopefully try to prioritize those?
I don't think you're looking for the PDP, you're looking for the individual reports, right?
The reports that they got back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
but
just
that's
meant
what-
like the plumbing report, or
Yeah.
is there a specific discipline or two, or just any and all? Okay, understood.
You don't want to put them out until you have them finalized, is what I'm
Until
hearing.
we've had a chance to vet them and coordinate all of them. I mean, and sometimes what you'll get is something that's mentioned, say in a civil report about drainage line, and then you'll get something else that's mentioned that might contradict it or question it in a plumbing report or the wastewater treatment plant report. We want those consultants to talk to each other and say, well, this is what I saw, or this is what I. So we go back and forth on that,
That's
and
fair.
that takes a while. And then the formatting of all of it, so,
So that's largely by the end of the summer, right?
exactly, right.
When we're
So-
talking about getting everything where all that information goes to the school committee, they have to approve the PDP. So all of those, the building committee absolutely gets those once they're vetted.
So once you get the PDP, there's months before we get to the end of the PSR. So you'll have time to review all of that information before you have to go and choose the one. So you'll have a really good opportunity to not only see and read those reports, but also to look at the costs that came out of the information that we provided in those reports.
That's a good point. At the conclusion of the PDP phase, there will be, however, we have 8+ options on the table here, and likely that there's multiple of these AR series for each of the enrollment scenarios. We may, so let's just say, call it 12. We may, at the end of the PDP phase, say, and we're not going to further explore 2 or 3 of these. But you will have the whole PSR period to review all that information and consider it as we look at the renovation options and that such.
And I think he's referring to that first page where I listed all the consultants.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
You saw how many consultants there are, right?
Yeah.
So those are all the reports that we're going through now.
Most of them said completed next to it. I didn't know if they
They've
were
completed their
available.
site visit
The
and,
draft report.
yeah,
Gotcha.
if you go all the way back.
Got it, understood, thank
And
you.
we've just received several of these reports literally
Just drafts,
within the past day or two. They were due on July 3rd from the consultants in their draft form. So now we're doing our vetting process, and then we'll have they'll get 2 weeks to turn it around and send it back to us.
Erica?
Yeah, thank you. Whoa. I want to circle back to the community outreach conversation. We talked a lot about the cost implications of the building cost for each, but will part of that discussion be clearly explaining staffing implications at different buildings? I think community members would definitely care about what that would mean for staffing implications for either the elementary schools or either of the two models for the schools
For the 6 through 12 option?
and for the 7 through 12.
Yep.
So those are costs as well, like there might be cost savings by doing the 7 through 12 and additional costs and staffing that would be needed for 6 through, or what implications would be at the elementary school. Are they going to lose staff because they're now going to be not needed because they can consolidate them here, all that stuff. Just want to make sure that's clear for folks as part of those conversations.
Certainly. Yeah, and I think there's part of that kind of policy discussion around the organizational structure, as well as down the line. Largely, the two schools are sharing staff, so there aren't huge implications, quite honestly, but I think that needs to be part of the discussion so people are clear for sure. For sure.
I'd only add to that, make sure we can sell to their 3 towns too. Whatever we do decide, it's 6 to 12 or 7 to 12. Because we're gonna have to sell that because this, I would assume there's gonna be 2 elementary schools that have empty classrooms if we did that.
Yeah. And that's why it's a building committee discussion, because ultimately it has to be, right, that's the job of this committee, is to decide on it's that balance of the ideal and what we believe the towns will support, right? So,
Anything else? Can I get a motion to adjourn? Or I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Thank you.
I know. I want to do it.